Hello guys, I'm Angus and it's been 2 days since Genshin Impact version 2.6 release. I'm sure many of you have heard about the changes to Yaemiko's targeting system and the huge objection from players all over the world towards this change. In this video, I will go through the whole story, telling everything you need to know, what happened, what HoYoVerse did wrong and what should have done, and finally some personal opinion on the crisis. Just to clarify, this video is only me sharing my personal thoughts and understanding towards the crisis, and all the claims I made might or might not be representing the real situation. So what happened to yaemiko? What was the changes made to her totem's targeting? So, yaemiko, being this year's most popular and controversial character, whether or not you own her or not, you can feel and literally see her popularity. There are numerous discussions and opinions on her kit and issue since her release. One of the main issues being the targeting of her totems. So, what was the problem of her targeting in version 2.5? First, her totem had trouble targeting large mobs such as the Golden Wolf Lord because of things like hitboxes. This issue was fixed in the recent patch. Second, her totem will attack units that are either invincible or non-attacking units such as trees and bonfires. It was thought to be related to Dendro because if you didn't know, shields and anything related to wood is classified as Dendro in Genshin. Moreover, her totems sometimes will not attack certain targets in combat, such as the daily mission Air Balloon. Everything mentioned above still hasn't been fixed in 2.6 patch. Before we move on to the problem of the new targeting system, I want to clarify some ideas and information about her targeting system before the patch so that you will have more ideas about what's wrong with the changes. In patch 2.6, yaemiko's targeting logic was changed from random units within range to closest unit within range. The old totem will not target structures such as bonfires or trees if there is enemy units within the range. The only possible way to hit the environmental structures is when there are no units within the totem's attack range. This is most noticeable before C2. The old totem targeting logic is random. It won't prioritize targets that are not affected by electro. As we can see from the post, her totem was meant to be randomized. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of the new targeting logic? Well, first we can now focus on and able to choose who to attack. Unlike the randomized attack, yaemiko will now be able to apply electro and do elemental reaction on specific enemy much easier. Also, because now you can control who to attack with, you can attack specific units by taunting the enemies to a specific location, which does require some kind of skill. However, since you need to actually position yourself to deal damage accurately, it is much more complex compared to just switch to Yae and EEE and just go off field. The disadvantage of this change is, however, has a pretty long list. First, because of her E now targets the closest unit, it is impossible for her E to attack ranged enemies before clearing the melee mobs. This means her C2, which increased her attack range, is completely useless. Also, because her totem now only attacks one single opponent, she's much worse in teams such as Shuko's Shroud team or Kokomi Electro Charge team comps because she can't apply a large amount of electro now. Since the element internal cooldown is on the enemy, this means if 3 of the totems are attacking the same target, the electro application is limited to 2.5 seconds. In addition, C6 yaemiko was able to literally use EEE and go AFK and basically kill every mob no matter where they are and how far they are in 2.5. However, since the totems now only target the closest unit, she requires a lot more skill to play compared to the very easy gameplay she had in 2.5. Finally, when Yae is in a burst team, such as Raiden's team, since she targets the closest unit rather than being able to hit ranged targets, her damage will be completely wasted and can even make the team rotation worse. For example, after Yae does EEE and you switch to Raiden and use her burst, the melee mobs will probably got one-shotted and now you will have to go and chase the ranged mobs now. It's basically a waste of damage, and so what's the difference between Yae's totem and melee character? So what will I do to fix this problem? Well, first, by adding an option for us to choose from attacking closest unit or random units like other mobile MOBA games like League of Legends. Well, this is not really a good solution because this will change how the game works and mechanics related to targeting, so I wouldn't really consider this option. Another possible solution is compensating the totem's single targeted attack by adding damage stacks on a mob every hit. This will encourage players to actually change their playstyle with some positive feedback. One other possible solution is to remove the element internal cooldown for the totems or separate the internal cooldown for each totems, because currently the cooldown timer is on the mob themselves. This will improve her electro application and there will be less chance for the mobs to lose their electro elements on them for reactions. That's all that I can think of, so if you have any ideas, comment down below and we'll discuss them together. I do actually own Yaemiko, and after experiencing her totem changes, I really don't notice that much of a difference when facing 1 to 2 enemies. However, when I'm facing multiple enemies scattered around, then the new targeting logic totally sucks. Her totem now is basically a melee character, which has no use when dealing with a group of mobs, which she excels at before patch 2.6. I personally do not mind the changes, but I indeed agree that HoYoVerse should do something to fix this situation. But what made me angry and furious is their attitude towards this incident. First, they are still ignoring the biggest complaint from the players, being her sluggish EEE animation, which is so annoying to play, because Yae always gets stuck and do stupid things when you're doing her elemental skill. If you own Yae, then you will know what I'm talking about. The thing that triggered me is Hayato's E. If you go and try him out, her E was so smooth compared to Yaemiko's, and this makes me question myself, is this even the same game? How on earth can the same company, which is clearly capable of making a character with such smooth gameplay, not fixing a simple problem everyone was complaining about? Also, in their patch note, the word they used to describe targeting logic of Yae is fix, not changed nor adjust. This means that they are saying that the random targeting Yae had was a bug, which was not meant to be random targeting and had to be fixed. If you take a look at the post they made showing Yae's elemental skill, it clearly shows that her totem targets random units rather than the closest units. This tells us that it was originally meant to be random targeting rather than being a bug that they described in the patch. Moreover, this fixation was never announced officially and have never entered testing. They are clearly hoping that they can secretly change the targeting without getting any attention on the topic, which they clearly failed to do so. Why would such a big change on such a controversial character was never noticed to the players during the banner, but instead after the banner has ended? This completely changed the type of conflict. This is illegal to do so. In Japan, where most of the Genshin Impact players are from, have laws preventing and against stuff like this. According to the laws in Japan, they have laws that against games that involves gambling to nerf the item after their customer paid for the item. Scrolling through Twitter, there are tons and tons of Japanese players writing letters to their government using the law mentioned to sue HoYoVerse. I personally have no idea how this will turn out, but I hope HoYoVerse does come up with a solution to at least soothe the crisis. So this basically rounds up the whole incident. I personally do not agree with the action that HoYoVerse chose to take in, and I really think they should avoid similar events from happening in the future. This is probably the second biggest incident in Genshin history other than the Shangli incident, which happened back in 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something about this incident. If you indeed enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out my other videos in the channel. I might make relevant videos in the future, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified every time I release a new video. That's pretty much all. Thank you guys.